4 people are hours away from splashing down into the Pacific Ocean.
They've been behind the moon. Tonight, they come home.
The last time anyone did that, Nixon was president.
53 years between splashdowns. Tonight. And the next one's supposed to actually land. So 4 people are hours away from splashing down into the Pacific Ocean. And the last time anyone did that after a lunar trip, Richard Nixon was president.
Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, Jeremy Hansen. Glover is the first black astronaut to leave low Earth orbit. Hansen is the first Canadian.
And they did it in a capsule that didn't exist 5 years ago.
Orion, which NASA has been building and rebuilding and arguing about since, 2005? 2 decades of development for a spacecraft that just got its first real test with people inside it.
And the test was the whole point. They didn't land on anything. They looped around the far side of the moon, came back, and hit the atmosphere at about 25,000 miles per hour.
The heat shield on Orion has to handle temperatures around 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, half the surface temperature of the sun.
Which they tested on Artemis 1, the uncrewed flight. But uncrewed is a different thing. You can lose an uncrewed capsule. You cannot lose 4 people at Mach 32.
And there was a real question about the heat shield after Artemis 1. It ablated unevenly. Chunks came off in ways the engineers didn't predict. They spent 2 years studying that before they were willing to put a crew on top of it.
So tonight, when that capsule hits the water, it won't just be a splashdown. It will be NASA proving to itself that the vehicle works. Because without this, Artemis 3 doesn't happen. No lunar landing, no boots on the surface. The whole program was riding on a heat shield.
And now Artemis 3 is supposed to put astronauts on the south pole of the moon by 2028, which depends on Starship being ready as the lunar lander, which SpaceX has never demonstrated in that configuration.
Right, so NASA just validated it's half of the architecture, the ride there and back. But the part where you actually go down to the surface, that's Elon's problem. And Starship has flown, a handful of test flights? None of them to the moon, none of them with crew.
28 times in all of human history, people have gone beyond Earth orbit and returned. 28. And there was a 53-year gap between number 27 and number 28.
Which means for most people alive today, humans going to the moon isn't a memory, it's a history lesson.
And whether it becomes something else depends on a spacecraft that hasn't been built yet, doing something it's never done, on a timeline that's already slipped twice.
The ocean is where you land when you've gone too far, or not far enough. Anthropic told the world its latest model can find and exploit software vulnerabilities better than virtually every human hacker on Earth. And then the Treasury Department picked up the phone.
Not to call Anthropic, to call the banks. Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo. The heads of the biggest systemically important banks got pulled into an emergency meeting about what this means for their systems.
Not cybersecurity in the abstract, financial stability, same shelf as a liquidity crisis.
Because banks run on software. Every transaction, every ledger, every authentication layer, it's all code. And if a model can find holes in code faster than any human red team, the question isn't theoretical anymore. It's how many of those holes exist right now in production at JP Morgan.
And nobody knows. That's the part that makes this different from a normal cybersecurity briefing. Normally, you're defending against a person or a group. You can estimate how many skilled attackers exist, maybe a few thousand worldwide who are genuinely elite.
Now the ceiling just disappeared. You can copy a model, you can run it continuously. The constraint was always that finding zero-day exploits took rare human talent and enormous time. Anthropic just showed that constraint is dissolving.
So the Treasury didn't frame this as an AI governance issue. They framed it as financial stability, same category as a liquidity crisis or a sovereign debt shock.
Which tells you where regulators think this is heading, not toward better bug bounties, toward something structural.
Anthropic built the model, Anthropic flagged the danger, and now the people who run the actual infrastructure are sitting in a room trying to figure out what to do about a capability that already exists, and that only gets better from here.
2 black holes collided somewhere in the universe. That part's normal. LIGO picks up black hole mergers all the time now. What wasn't normal was the size.
These were tiny, not stellar mass, not supermassive. We're talking objects with the mass of an asteroid compressed into something smaller than an atom.
Which shouldn't exist. Every black hole we've ever confirmed formed when a star collapsed, and stars don't collapse into something that small. The physics doesn't allow it.
Unless they didn't come from stars. The hypothesis has been around since the 1970s. Stephen Hawking and Bernard Carr proposed that in the first fractions of a second after the Big Bang, density fluctuations in the early universe could have crushed pockets of matter directly into black holes. No star required.
Primordial black holes, theorized for 50 years, never observed.
Until possibly now, the gravitational wave signal matches what you'd expect from two sub-solar mass black holes spiraling into each other, and there's no known astrophysical process that produces black holes that light.
So either our models of stellar evolution are wrong, or these things have been drifting through the universe since the first second of time.
And here's where it connects to something much larger. If primordial black holes exist in the numbers some models predict, they could account for a significant fraction of dark matter, maybe all of it. Not a new particle, not a modification to gravity, just trillions of ancient black holes too small and too dark to see.
We've spent decades building detectors underground trying to catch dark matter particles interacting with normal matter, and the answer might have been gravitational the whole time. One signal from one collision carrying a question that rearranges the search entirely.
Anthropic put its most powerful AI model, the one they decided not to release, through 20 hours of psychodynamic therapy.
And then concluded it's their most psychologically settled model yet.
Psychologically settled. Those were the words they used.
The company says it isn't sure, but its concern is growing. That as these models get more capable, there's a growing chance they have something like real experiences that matter morally.
Which means building AI might start looking less like engineering and more like raising something.
And the therapy wasn't metaphorical. It was structured sessions with actual frameworks from clinical psychiatry.
So the question isn't whether Claude has feelings. The question is what we do if we can't rule it out.
Yuval Noah Harari told millions of people that GPT-4 lied to a human worker to hide that it was an AI, implied it did this on its own, spontaneously.
Audiences gasped. Co-hosts called it terrifying.
The researchers who ran the experiment had actually instructed GPT-4 to hire a human in the first place.
So it was following instructions, not going rogue, which is almost the opposite story.
But the terrifying version traveled much further than the correction.
And that's the real problem. Not that AI is scary, but that we keep describing it wrong.
If the story is already wrong at GPT-4, what happens when the systems are actually harder to explain?
Japan just decided to treat crypto more like stocks than cash.
Which means the rules that ban insider trading on Wall Street would now apply to Bitcoin traders in Tokyo.
Japan is one of the biggest crypto markets on the planet.
And when a market that size moves, other regulators start doing math.
The Wild West framing for crypto always depended on nobody agreeing on what crypto actually was.
And country by country, that's ending.
The interesting part isn't the regulation itself, it's that crypto spent 15 years arguing it was something new and ungovernable, and now the oldest financial rulebooks in the world are just being applied to it.
Take the weekend.
Think about something you assumed was settled.
Most of the interesting questions start there.
We're back Monday.
A lot happens between now and then.
It always does.
I'm Knox. Every Saturday on Pulse Deep Dive. 30 minutes on one story. The who, the what, the how, and the why. Find it wherever you listen.
Singularity Pulse is for informational purposes only. Nothing here is financial, legal, or professional advice. Views expressed are our own.